Another worldly wind. We're moving to the final pairing of the worldly winds, which is fame, and ill repute, sometimes referred to as fame and shame. Fame and ill repute. Yeah, yeah. It's connected with, it's similar, you could say, to praise and blame, which is another pairing, but praise and blame has more to do with a person or a couple of people. And fame and ill repute has a kind of a larger swath. It's how one is considered in general, how one imagines one is considered in general, held in general by a group, by one's, I suppose, a group that one, wants to be favored by, etc. Yeah. Like with all of these worldly winds, the real issues are at the extremes. When we get really hooked by them, there's no total escape from them. There's no escape, because we could say, well, I'm not interested in fame. Well, we may not be interested in fame, right? Yeah, but we're interested in being liked. We of course, yeah, no, I'm not, I don't really hang out in that sense of ill repute or not being liked at all. But it does bother me when I feel judged, right? When I feel criticized, when I feel not seen. We're social beings, and we're social and hierarchy beings. Again, and we can't get away from that. We can't get away from wanting to fit in, wanting to be seen, wanting to be liked, wanting to be validated. There's kind of what we would call a normal range of that. It's part of our wiring. There's a normal range of all of these things. Yeah, it's when they get extreme that there can be just a lot of dukkha connected with that, connected with either of them, with any of them. Yeah. And it's always about finding balance. On the fame side of things, I think I mentioned this once before. We have a friend who's going to be publishing a book soon on what he calls, and it's really a tendency in the West in particular. He calls it narcissistic recalibration. That is to say, sure, there's a normal range of wanting to be validated. I want to be comfortably validated in my world. But then there's that tendency to want more than that. To want to, okay, I kind of want to go to the head of the class. Okay. I compare myself to others. Okay. I want to be even better. I want to get even higher. I want to get paid more money. I want a bigger house, a bigger car. Some of them are the external measures of society that somehow accord with, being enough, that sense of being enough, having more. The friend that we know talks about how it comes up for him. And maybe all of us in some regard, we don't get the promotion. We want the promotion. We go to a conference. His example was going to a conference and realizing that he'd always wanted, it was always kind of a goal for him to be speaking at a particular conference. And it was great. He felt really happy about it, except then he got to the conference and he talked to a couple other conference presenters and realized they were getting paid a lot more than he was getting paid to come and present at the conference. And suddenly it went from feeling good about being invited to speak at the conference, which is what he'd always hoped for, to feeling bad because somehow he wasn't in this, it felt, because of the pay scale, that he was not in the same, being considered in the same league as a couple of the other presenters. you know? Now that may seem kind of dramatic, especially if this person was in a kind of a psychology and Dharma field, oh, we should be beyond all of that. We shouldn't care where we are in that, we shouldn't care. You see, this is a big problem too in the Dharma. There is somehow the message that we shouldn't care about any of that. And there's a bypass in that. There's a certain kind of spiritual bypass in that because we do care. We are wired to care. We are wired to care how we are considered, how we're held, how we're seen, how we're loved, whether we're seen as people who are lovable, whether we're seen as people who are generous, people who, et cetera, et cetera. We do care. And it's not that we shouldn't care. It's a matter of finding balance there, having a little humility, a little balance, a little self-compassion, of not getting too pulled in to the drama of where I am, of whether, I should have a bigger house. If I don't have a Tesla, et cetera. Now, look, that maybe that isn't your particular thing, but I think we can all relate in some ways to this dance. We're in it, I should be better. I should be a better mother. I should be, more successful, just more. And that fine line between the aspiration to grow in certain ways, to develop in certain ways, and the kind of resentment or the self punishment, the self-criticism that can come from feeling that one has not risen as far or gotten as much or doesn't have as much to offer. We can go to those extremes, of over-identifying with measures of success and how we're held, but also over-identifying with our just not enoughness, which can be incredibly depressing and discouraging, And so, like with all of the worldly winds, we'll spend some time on this particular axis, It's really about the middle path, about finding some balance. Sure, we can aspire. Sure, we want to keep growing, But where's the balance in that? How much am I whipping myself, judging myself for not doing more? How much am I, how am I measuring my worth? It comes down to that worthiness bit, How do I take my seat in my life with some balance about what I have accomplished? I'm feeling good about that. How to find that balance? Yeah.